Hello and welcome to a Not So Awesome Review. And today we're looking at Amazing Spider-Man #1 by Nick Spencer. Now, Dan Slott's 10-year run just ended. And when I found out it was ending, I was a little bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of the people who like Dan Slott. I know there's people who don't, and if you don't like him, that's fine. It's your own reasoning. I loved his run and was kind of just like, is the new Amazing Spider-Man going to be good? Is it going to not be that great? I didn't know what to think, and then I found out Nick Spencer was writing it. If you don't know, Nick Spencer wrote Superior Foes Spider-Man, a freaking amazing comic book, which if you haven't read, I highly recommend it. There is I believe, minibus for it. It's an omnibus, but I think it's called a minibus. I'm not really sure. But it's a really good series. I highly recommend it. Really funny, and, like I said, once I found out that he was the one writing it, it was just like, okay, I have to get this, and I was not let down. I have it right here, the variant edition, because, well, why not, right? I mean, it's a really nice looking cover. So I picked this one up. I put back the regular cover because at $5.99, do I really need two covers nowadays? Especially with how many comic books I have taking up space in my closet. Kind of have to cut down on those variants, but I couldn't resist this. Now there is one thing that Marvel's doing, which I guess they've been doing for a little bit. I think they've been doing it just this year. I don't think it started last year, but it could have. I don't know. I haven't been picking up too much of anything actually lately. But not only is this Amazing Spider-Man #1, it's also Legacy number 802, which I think is a great way to balance the fact that Marvel likes rebooting its series, starting fresh with #1 for new readers to kind of go ahead and, learn. This is a great jumping on point. Well, for people like me who have been reading it this whole time and like to keep things in order, this starting with 802 is a breath of fresh air. We don't have to be like, it's another issue #1. No, we have both numberings on here. It appeases both crowds, and I love that. I wish DC would adopt something like that because they did just start over actually the same week with Superman #1, which obviously Superman, they're just going to go back to the regular numbering once they get close to the 100th or something. I mean, that's what Marvel was doing with Spider-Man for the longest time in any of their books. Anytime they got close to, they would go back to the original numbering and then go back to a new numbering system, which is kind of annoying. Spider-Man 700, then we had Superior, and then we started with Spider-Man #1. Then we went to Spider-Man 790 something, and then it went to 800, and now we're back at #1. But again, like I said, we have that 802 right there, which is awesome. And I know I spent way too much probably talking about that, but it is really important, really cool that they are doing that. Now, story-wise and art-wise, I'm just going to sum up really quick and then get into some spoilers because I really want to talk about this book. So, art-wise, it was good. I'm not offended by it, so that's always a good thing. Is it amazing? Is it, spectacular, super detailed? No, but I mean, it's Spider-Man. It looks like a Spider-Man comic book, and I'm okay with it. I will be fine with it if this is the entire art for the entire run for Nick Spencer. I will be happy with it. I don't have a problem with it. I think it looks good. Moving on to the writing, really well, really funny. Peter's monologue captured perfectly fine, and not really much else to say there because it was written like a Spider-Man comic. It's what I expect when reading Spider-Man. Now, story-wise is where I'm going to delve into a little bit more spoilers. So if you haven't read it, I apologize. I do recommend you try and pick yourself up a copy, and yeah, just get into it. So the book basically opens up with Peter Parker waking up in the middle of the night, more like early morning, because of his roommate being loud and annoying playing video games, and it turns out his roommate is Captain Boomerang, which is awesome because it's showing Nick Spencer getting his characters from Superior Foes and moving them to this comic book. He's not the only one who makes an appearance here. Beetle makes an appearance here, female Beetle. I actually don't know if that's the full name. I don't know if there's a name before it, but I know it's Beetle, and she makes an appearance, which is awesome. We have the main villain of the comic book being Mysterio, and we have Wilson Fisk, who is now the mayor of New York, kind of doing some kind of shady thing and alluding to a bigger underground kind of plot that will probably develop in the next few issues. On top of that, we're showing how bad Peter's life is again. So it's kind of like the same formula we get with most starts of, Spider-Man comic books. When we get a new fresh story, it's always kind of the same thing. Peter down in the dumps. His job isn't that great. He doesn't have that much money. Though when we start off here, he does have a good job, a good position, but he does lose that all right away thanks to something that happened in Superior Spider-Man, which is Doc Ock getting his doctorate for Peter and writing a paper with his own thesis that he wrote a long time ago, and it coming up as fake. Now, the professor actually found out about that and said it was Otto Octavius, and Otto, who was in Peter's body at that time, kind of confronted him about it, and he ended up passing anyway. So it was fixed there, but with this whole weird thing of these kids are cheating and this is why and this is how they're doing it, it was a little ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. It was actually really ridiculous, that whole part, the whole scene where they were showing the kids getting caught cheating or how they cheated, or one of them died because they sold their soul to, I think it was Dormammu or something, and it was like, it's like really you're stretching a little bit. They could have made it a little bit more realistic, but it was funny. It was funny nonetheless, and it works. So that's probably the most important part, is that it does work, though it feels unrealistic. But at the same time, it's good. It's good. It's a good plot moving forward type thing. Words are hard, by the way. So from there, the school decides to show off a new way they can show, like, okay, this person cheated because of this. It's really just basically what we have now in modern times, where you see a kid cheated because it matched a paper with a different paper. I mean, it's nothing actually new, and it didn't really need this giant, auditorium full of people showing off, hey, look, we're showing new technology, because that technology basically already exists. But again, for the plot of the comic book, it needed to be there. But anyway, since Peter is there and the girl there actually went to school with him, they chose Peter and they ran his name through the system, and they found out that his paper is the same as Otto Octavius's. And then that's kind of where he ends up losing his job, because he does work in a newspaper and it shows that his credibility is not that good. It's kind of a big public embarrassment for him, and people just laugh at him. Mary Jane just laughs at him. Everybody basically does, even though he's feeling bad about it. Not only that, we're going back and forth between that and a fight that he's having with the Avengers. Not that he's fighting with the Avengers, but he's fighting alongside the Avengers. They're not happy to see him at all, actually, which is kind of interesting, because, I mean, when did they have a falling out? Am I missing something? Did something happen in Civil War 2? Because I did not read Civil War 2 Spider-Man, or Civil War 2, actually, for that matter. But did something happen where they're not friendly anymore? I mean, he's still talking to Johnny Storm, but he even said, like, oh, I don't like you, but that's kind of the relationship they have anyway. But when the Defenders see him, they're kind of like, oh, this guy kind of thing going on, which, again, was funny, but kind of weird to see everybody not liking Peter there, and it's just kind of weird. Of course, they don't know he's Peter, they think him as Spider-Man, but you guys get what I mean. Anyways, Spider-Man basically figures out what's going on. It's Mysterio. He's doing some weird thing using practical effects, which wasn't really explained if he was actually opening portals, or if the portals were all fake and the things he was throwing down were, I don't even know. I don't even know. They don't actually explain what those creatures were that were basically taking out the Avengers, because there was too many of them. I'm curious about that, because they didn't explain themselves. But Peter does stop Mysterio, and instead of being excited and anybody being like, oh, he did it, we should be proud of him, it's really just Peter swinging away from where he left Mysterio, being embarrassed that it was one of his bad guys who did it, which is kind of funny. Aside from that, we have him kind of exploring different relationships. He talks to Aunt May, and Aunt May is really saddened by the fact that he plagiarized Otto Octavius, because obviously she doesn't know that he's Spider-Man. And he can't really explain himself by telling her, hey, yeah, Otto Octavius was in my body and he wrote it, it wasn't me. So it's really sad. It's actually, it's a good moment. I mean, it was written well. You could see, you hear in Peter's voices how disappointed he is in that, how he would rather go through all these other things than to see her that disappointed in him. On top of that, we have another thing where he's kind of struggling, where he thought he was going to die when he went after whatever was making the attack on New York, which, again, like I said, turns out to be Mysterio. And in the end of it, he's talking to Mary Jane and says he basically wants to be Spider-Man, but he wants her in his life too, and she's in it with him and she's happy about it, which, it is nice seeing them come back together, and I'm guessing that's where the comic book is going. I'm guessing that's where the series is going, is with Peter and Mary Jane getting back together finally after all these years. But I feel like it happened too fast, especially with how the last story arc that Dan Slott wrote, where Peter and Mary Jane looked like they were about to hook up, and then she saw the Spider-Man costume under his shirt and kind of said, no, I'm not doing this again and stuff. She was so hesitant to do it then. Like, I feel like it should have had more of a build-up. It should have gone on for a few more issues where he's trying to get her back slowly, or they're hanging out more. We see that relationship kind of re-spark itself or something, and not just her be like, oh, I've always been there for you, or whatever she said in the end. I feel like it was just too soon. Am I happy about it? Yes. I want to see where it goes. Am I thinking, like I said, was it too soon? Yeah. Other than that, great story, great writing. The humor in it was amazing. We do get after the end. I'm saying the end because it does basically end. It shows the credits, the pages with the credits and everything. Then the next page is like an ad for another comic book. But then you get more, and it's Mysterio in court, which is actually really funny because they mention him going to court, and he gets his lawyer, and then he goes into this weird mind trip, and yeah, it was really interesting. Again, alluding to another, I would say a story arc that's going to happen sooner than the Wilson Fisk one. I have a feeling that's going to be like some overarching story. Probably, I could be wrong. It could just happen in the next 5 issues, and then we'll go on to something else. But either way, great, solid issue number one. Nick Spencer honestly did a great job. I am so happy that he is the one writing Spider-Man because, like I said, Superior Foes, Spider-Man, great series, highly recommended. This series I'm definitely excited for. I've been excited for Spider-Man for the longest time. The only time I wasn't excited to get Dan Slott Spider-Man was when they made him rich and he was traveling the world. That was mostly because he wasn't in New York. And I don't know, whenever you take superheroes out of their element, it's really hard. It's like it doesn't go too well. And seeing him in China and going after the Zodiac people in different places kind of really put me off for a bit, especially when Miles Morales was just added to the universe. I wanted to see that interaction. I mean, we've seen it, but we didn't get to see it right away, and that's what I actually wanted to read. Not, oh, Peter is now a billionaire and traveling the world and has all this high tech stuff. And yeah, it was good. Like I said, I love Dan Slott's run. I'm excited for this one. I'm glad that it's in good hands, and I really have nothing else to say other than if you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.